Welcome, everybody. Kyle and I are here with Alison Armstrong, and this is probably the most excited that I have been in a long time. You're all in for a treat if you haven't met Alison. I consider her to be the world's foremost expert on, I don't know how to describe it, but the relationship between men and women, whether you call it intersexual dynamics, intrasexual dynamics. But it is a very important thing to understand in today's world where men and women are working in the workplace closer together than ever before. We are sharing duties that used to be separated more than ever before. We're bumping into each other in more ways than we ever used to, and we probably have less insight into how to do that well than people would have had in the past. So we're going to be getting into so many things that changed my life when I came across Alison's teachings in the area of how I relate to women. Obviously, this stuff will be applicable to people that you're dating because you're spending a lot of time with them, but it's also with my mom. I have a much better relationship with my mom than I ever did before because the things that would drive me nuts and the things that would drive her nuts, we were able to smooth out. Same with coworkers that I have that are women, same with my cousins. I mean, pretty much every single female in my life I have a much better relationship with after Alison. So Alison, let me just start by saying thank you for doing the work you did. I don't know if the compensation that you receive financially is worthy of the contribution that you've made to my life, but thank you for doing it just personally because it's made a huge difference. I talk about you all the time, and thanks for being here today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's funny, David. I've never done it for the money. God bless my late husband. He never expected me to make a dime. He signed on for my mission in life, and he was going to support it. And none of it would be here if it hadn't been for him. But I'm a messenger, and so that's just my job. Just get the word out, get the word out, get the word out. It's all a big misunderstanding. We don't have to be at war. And I didn't know that. I mean, I don't think you read The Queen's Code or listened to the audiobook, which I recommend much more to listen to the audiobook. But the first chapter happened to me. What happens to the character called Kimberly in the first chapter happened to me. I had been married, divorced, decided, men are they're con artists, and you just got to reveal the con as quickly as possible before you fall in love with them and get sucked in. And so I prided myself on being able to bring out the real man in like 10 days. Easy. Just poke him hard.
Get him to reveal the true nature, right? Aha, there's the real you now that you're being a jerk.
The real you. I knew you weren't as nice, as charming, as caring as you pretend to be. And then a colleague of mine was literally in a seminar. We were sitting next to each other. She was called a frog farmer. And that instead of turning frogs into princes, she turns princes into frogs. And it was a revelation to me. I had this vision of a big farmhouse with a wraparound porch, and I'm standing at the front, and there's hundreds of frogs in front of me with little human heads. And there's my ex-husband and all the men who I poked hard enough, right? I was 30 at the time. This is 1991. And so 33 years now. And when he said that, I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm bringing out the worst in men. I was thrilled because the alternative to that, I was bringing out the worst in men, is that men are terrible, right? Men really are as bad as I think they are. I knew they were. I was certain of this, right? I was certain.
Which is a bleak outcome if you are attracted to men and you need men in your life, and they're also horrible human beings. They're toxic, they're narcissist. That's a very miserable existence to accept. And I mean to cut you off, but I just want to highlight the point you're going on to make here. When we realize that we didn't know this was the case, there is a part of us that wants to jump in and be defensive and say, I don't want to believe that. I have to change. What do you mean it's on me? But it actually can be incredibly optimistic when you say, oh, now that I see how it works, I can change it. It's like finding out that processed foods were bad for me this whole time. And that's why losing weight has always been so hard.
Yeah, I was thrilled because I had tried to change men for over a decade. And I had been involved in transformation since I was 19 years old. I knew how I could transform myself. So if it was on me, yay, I can do something about it. But I was so normal. I didn't know how I brought out the worst in men. I just did what every woman on television does, what my mother did, what even my mother taught me to do. Like, my mother's opinion of men, they're stupid. They're all stupid. And here, watch this. And she would show me how to manipulate them. And she never questioned it. Didn't work for very long, right? Which is the problem with all manipulation. Once somebody escapes your space, they go back to being themselves and do what's true for them.
Right.
So I thought men were lesser humans than women. I thought if women were in charge, the world would be a better place. I questioned if men had souls. I'm being very honest here.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
I questioned that. And I thought it would take 2 or 3 months to learn everything that was worth knowing about these superficial, semi-soulless creatures that unfortunately we need for some things. Let's figure out how to get it from them with giving them the least.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was normal. I was such a normal human being. And then I fortunately, I had 3 men in my life that I was their coach, you would call it these days, in order to supplement my nonprofit income, because I think I was born an activist. And so I took on this question, popped into my head, and this is a part of my work that's it's very woo-woo. I have been guided by questions this entire time. Like the moment I realized there's a frog farmer and how was I going to figure this out? This question popped in my head. What if men are responding to women? And this is one of the most important distinctions for anyone to start with, because thank goodness, and higher consciousness is really smart. What if men are responding to women? So I started interacting with the 3 men that I talked to, one of them almost every day. And when they did something that surprised me, I tried to figure out why they did it. Now, I'd always done that, but I took another step. I checked it out with them. I started verifying. What a novel idea. So did you do that because of this? And the first time I did that, the man's name is Brooke. And he had complained before the weekend about how much time he was going to have to spend helping his mom. And I was coaching him on how to get out of it. And then I talked to him on Monday. I'm like, how's your weekend? Well, I spent it helping my mom. It's like, and I was thinking, he must have not wanted to upset her. That's probably why he did it. Yeah, of course. That's why I would have done it, to not upset her.
Right.
And so I'm like, did you, after all our conversation, did you do that because you were afraid of upsetting her? And his reaction, David, was huge. And it's one of the most important things that women need to know, because we are motivated by people being upset. And we will either upset you on purpose or be very careful to not upset you. And if we found out that something upsets you, we're going to try to never do that again. Or if we do it, we'll hide it from you. We're highly motivated by upset. And Brooke said, when I said, were you afraid of upsetting her? He went, ew. I would never do anything for that reason. And no self-respecting man would. And I'm like, but it made perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness I was on the phone with him. He didn't see the look on my face. And I asked him, so why did you do it? And that was my first lesson in any time I was attributing to a man my motivations, there was a very good chance I was wrong. And I got a lesson in duty and honor and being honorable. He said, I did it because I'm her son. And it's my duty as a son to support my mom. And Oh my gosh. And I mean, we could spend an hour just on duty. Like
Yep.
duty can be so freeing for men. Men decide what is my duty. This is my duty as a son. That's not my duty as a son, mom, to call you every day. Show up when you need help. That's my duty. And it can be very freeing, right? There's boundaries. This is my duty. This is not my duty. And you can see why culturally we try to imprint what your duty is, what your duty is, what your duty is. It's a very masculine concept. And it's when men tried to motivate women with for
Just was thinking
ages. Yeah, we're not motivated by duty.
And I see
We're
men make
motivated
this
by staying
mistake
out of trouble.
all the time. So,
Yep.
for instance, what I've noticed, because I'm not married, I'm not in a relationship, but I kind of gives me this objective position where I can watch people that are married in relationships and be like,
Yeah.
I'm not in it like you are, so I can see a little bit more clearly. And I've noticed that different words have different meanings for the two genders. So, like, I'll hear women say, I want him to be more vulnerable. And if Kyle said, David, I want you to be more vulnerable, that would mean I want you to tell me all the things you think you're not good enough at, all the areas where you think you're failing, all the terrible thoughts that you're having, so I can come have your back. And then men will go spill all their fears out on their partner, and she'll be like, oh my God, I'm not safe. Like, he's going to lose his job. He doesn't know what he's doing. No one likes him. And then they lose trust. But what she wanted him to say was, I love you so much. I couldn't live without you. You're my favorite part of the day. Like, it meant something very different when she said vulnerable than what he heard. And one of them was what you were just saying, duty. So I'll see men tell their wives, it is your duty as a wife to do this thing. And you just see their faces recoil. Just, you're trying to control me. But the thing is, the concept of duty to men is actually a pleasing one, right? When he said it is my duty as a son, he's not resentful of that. It feels good to do what your duty is. We did a real estate meetup in Denver a week ago or so, and it ended late at night, and it wasn't the best part of Denver. And though I was sort of the person everyone was coming to see, I saw people leaving, and it was really bothering me that these women were walking to their cars at night alone when I had seen the kind of characters that were out there. And it was this feeling of, it is my duty to keep these people safe. Yes. And if I cannot walk all of them to their cars, it's like, oh, I don't like this feeling whatsoever. I would feel better if I could do my duty. I have a very different relationship with it, like what you were saying, than I think what someone else would hear.
Oh my, I mean, okay, there's so many directions we can go from here. Like, we can go for men's relationship to protection, which women think you only protect me if you're attracted to me. You're only going to protect the woman you're the most attracted to. And if you're mad at me, you're not going to protect me. You're just going to say, Tiger, take her. You want some mustard? Like, we're sure. We have no concept. We don't have the concept of loyalty and being honorable. And like this upset thing, one of its trails was, to be honorable means to do the right thing no matter how you feel. Brooke didn't feel like doing that, but he did the honorable thing, which was to fulfill what he considered to be his duty. Well, you go down the honorable track, do the right thing no matter how you feel. That includes no matter that you love her. Yes, I love her, but I'm not the right person for her. I can't give her what she needs. I can't support the dreams that she has. That means I'm not the right person for her to tie herself to, no matter how much I love her. So I'm breaking up with her. That is like, what? To a woman? So trying to motivate a man by how upset we are. We have a program on our website, which I think you must know this. We have over 200 hours of recorded content on our website. And one of them is just this little short one called Why You Can't Trust Men to Tell the Truth. And I started titling things in ways that people would think someone who's such an advocate and loves men, probably the biggest fan worldwide of men, why would she have something called Why You Can't Trust Men to Tell the Truth? And when I produced it, which was to attract all the women that are sure you can't trust men to tell the truth, and then we sent a recording of it out to the men on our mailing list saying, Alison still got your back. The subtitle of this would be, how Women teach honest men it's not worth it. And that's the essence of it. That a woman wants a man to tell her the truth. He tells her his truth. She gets really upset about what's true for him. She thinks how upset she is about his truth means he's going to change his truth. No, you guys are a lot smarter than that. Your truth's been your truth for a long time, and it wasn't a problem until you told her.
Yeah.
You don't change the truth. You change the thing that happened right before that problem, telling her. And then women, when you were talking about being vulnerable, you didn't even say the worst thing. Women don't know that to reveal what a man's told you about himself to anybody else is a betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't know that.
Oh, yeah.
They do not know that. And then the second thing that they do, because we go tell people, oh, and then David said, and we tell girls, we tell women that, because then it shows how special I am. And look how much he loves me that he said this. And so we go blabbing your stuff to people because it enhances our status, enhances the way that we're thought of. We don't even know that's why we're doing it. We're so compelled to do it because we're herd animals and we pay attention to status, especially amongst women. And so we could just go down this entire path of why men conceal, how instinctive it is. You're going to conceal anything that can be used against you. And it's not just your weaknesses. It's your attachments. It's your commitments. It's what you care about most. Your highest values you will conceal from someone that you don't trust. You won't even, there are people you won't even tell them what you do for a living. You don't want them to know. So that's that whole path. And then you've got this other whole path of, most men call it within reach. You're so compelled to protect. You will protect anyone within reach. You don't care if you know them. You don't care if you like them. You don't care if you're attracted to them. It's the right thing to do, which is why you would get so upset that you can't walk all these women to the cars, right? And, I can imagine in the future going, okay, before we end here, ladies, how many of you need to walk out to the parking lot? Raise your hand. Okay, men, look around. Pick one to walk her there.
Like
hold up your hand to volunteer. She'll pick the one of you that seems the least threatening.
Yes. You mentioned something in there where you said to men, it's not worth it. Well, let me actually, before I say that, let me add on to the point you just made there. When we share a detail of our life, a secret, something intimate, and then she shares it to her friend group, like you said, we sort of understand that the motivation was what you said. It is, I want to elevate my status by sharing David's secret. Right. That I don't know how a woman's value system sort of organizes that, but in the man's head, because I'm now going to probably think like a man and assume her motives were what mine would be. That's similar to when the general shares the plans for war with one of the lieutenants, and the lieutenant gets drunk and he goes talking about all the plans to people that are not in the army. And we're like, now that could get back to the other side. Was it so important to you that those people think you're cool, that you compromise the entire mission and you jeopardize the trust of the general? You're now kicked out of the inner circle. And instead of thinking I blew it, I need to go apologize, I need to be humble, I need to take ownership of what I said, that doesn't really line up with the woman's value system because it's not honorable. That doesn't mean women cannot do it. I just think from what you're saying, it isn't the first response that they're going to have. It's going to be, he's a jerk, he doesn't like me. See, I knew it. Guys are this way.
I'm sorry, but it's worse than that. It never occurs to us it was a betrayal. I mean, I know this from being around you guys for so long. And just like a month and a half ago, in these strange circumstances, I was sitting next to, Dan is my boyfriend, and I was sitting next to his ex-wife, which was unthinkable 3.5 years ago. They didn't even nod at each other when passing by. No eye contact, no nothing. Their enmity was, was famous in the community. And I was sitting next to her because he'd gone over and sat down next to her. And then he went to do something and I scooted over and I started talking. And I said something to her that after I said it, I went, uh-oh, that was not mine to tell.
Mm.
And I was so ashamed, right? The feeling in my gut, I betrayed him. And I once I realized it the next day, and I like, this is really bad. And I went to him. I said, I have to tell you something. He's like, hey, do you want to no? I'm like, well, you might not want to after I tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want me just to leave after I tell you this. And he's like, oh, okay. And I told him what I did, and I owned it, and I apologized that was not mine to say, and not to her especially. And he just, you're right. He's like, he didn't try to make me feel better. You're right. That wasn't. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm so sorry. He's like, thank you.
And that probably
I forgive you.
helped restore the trust that was broken.
Completely.
Now because now that you're safe, that's how men feel safe, what you just did there. Mm-hmm. Now he doesn't have to kick you out of the inner circle to feel safe, right? He's like, okay, if she can control herself, I don't have to try to control her. And what I notice is these are a lot of the complaints that I hear about men. He's controlling, yes. Or if he would have shut down and pushed you away, that would have been received as, from a woman's perspective, as, well, now he's emotionally unavailable. And I picked one of those guys. Yeah,
well, that's how I'm different. I would have thought that's fair. I would have thought I've betrayed his trust. I have proven to use what he shares with me against him. I deserve to not be shared with. The loss of intimacy I caused. Yeah. And that's the thing that women don't know. But the flip side of that, I want to tell you the flip side of it. And this is that worth it thing. Okay. So, I mean, we could also spend the entire time just on the worth it calculation. Women don't know that men have an automatic constantly calculating, is this worth it? Is this worth it? Is this worth it? And that the worth it calculation includes, whatever is being asked of me, how much time, money, and resources would it take? What will I have to take that away from in order to do this? And then what's the benefit going to be? What's the upside going to be? And if the upside is I come out even, she's not upset, that's not worth doing. The upside has to be in the positive, and it has to be a lot in the positive. Why? Because men are acutely aware of the expenditure of time and energy in a way that women are not. And you're aware of it from a survival point of view. You put out, you spend more calories than you take in, you die. You only come out even, you die. You only come out a little ahead, you've got nothing in the larder for winter, you die. So you're always paying attention. And truth is my second highest value. I need it and I love it. I'm a lover of truth. So I had to figure out how to get it. And how you get truth from men is you make sure it's always worth it for them to tell you the truth. That you're like, you know what? I admit that I'm like a little like, oh crap from what you told me, but you get 1,000 points for telling me that. You get 1,000 points. My respect for you has increased by you telling me that. You've actually protected me by telling me that. Thank you. That's how you make it worth it. Mm-hmm. The points a man gets, the credit the man gets, especially in the domain of admiration, respect, and appreciation, that's the currency, right? Makes it worth doing things. And, men have told me so much. They have revealed, I can't tell you how many times a man has said, my wife doesn't even know this about me. And sitting next to them on an airplane, they tell me things their wives don't know because they're sure I can't hurt them with it. Well, their wife has proved she'll hurt them with it, which comes back to like me going to Dan and saying I did this. What women most want men to do is just say I was wrong. But you can't say you're wrong, because that will come back at you. She will recycle that maybe for decades. Well, remember when you did such and you even admitted it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We tell you it's not worth it to admit you're wrong, instead of you going, I was wrong. Really? Oh my God, thank you for telling me that. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. Can we figure out how not to have this happen again? Sure, I don't want it to happen again. Me neither. Did I do something that had you do that? Well, when you looked at me like that, when you said that, when you made that snarky comment, when you batted your eyelashes at him and not me, like you guys aren't thoughtless. You're provoked a lot of the time. But also, David, one of my favorite things is, like we teach in the Queen's Code, if you just start with, I'm sure you had a good reason for this, you'd be willing to tell me what it was. One time I said to a man, I'm sure you had a good reason for that. And he said, oh no, I was just being an ass. But it was safe for him to say that.
You made it worth it for him to tell you the truth. He could say he admitted his motive was not great. He knew that the whole time. He just wasn't safe admitting to you that he knew he was acting like a child.
Well, but then he just did. I was in it. No, I didn't have a good reason. I was being an ass.
Yeah.
But then, like, to laugh about it as human beings, our instincts, and this is the thing that both men and women don't know. We don't know how much we function on instinct. And we don't know that we function on female instincts, human instincts, herd and pack instincts, and even instincts that the fir tree outside my window has. That everything on the planet has an instinct to procreate, an instinct to protect, and an instinct to provide. And the essence of frog farming is women do things. Can I just go through this real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a long time to figure it out, that it's a hierarchy, that it's procreate, then protect, then provide. And the most obvious is sex, children, raising children. But entrepreneurship, right? That's procreation. You create something, you invent something, you build something, then you got to protect it, right? You're going to patent, you're going to have security, you're going to do all kinds of things in order to protect it. And then you're going to provide for it, or you're going to provide it to the world. Well, both men and women, we what's glorious is when we're in provide together. When we're either creating together or we're in provide together. Protect together, getting on the same team can be amazing, but it's hard. And what women don't know is that when we attack men, which we often don't even recognize that we are, not only are we having you retreat from provide, which is to be a provider, such a natural part of men, you retract back to protect. And not only protect, which you'll retract from provide from her to protect her, including protect her from herself.
And protect us from her, which is what happens when we're
that's the worst thing. So you not only from provide to protect, you protect me from her. And that's when mean shows up, or what occurs as mean to women. That's when defensiveness shows up. That's when shutdown shows up, is when a man is protecting himself from us. And we don't, David, we don't know how vulnerable men are to women. We don't know how much our love means to you, how much our admiration means to you, how much our appreciation means to you. We don't know how much eye contact means to you. We don't know how much a smile means to you, a giggle. We don't know how much our happiness and you getting to do something that causes us to be happy, we don't know how much that means to you.
It's the same. Your happiness to us is the currency we thrive on, like a mother thrives on the happiness of her child. When you see a mom's face light up when that baby is laughing, that is the same way that the men that I know feel when their wife is looking up adoringly at him with admiration and respect and happiness.
Oh, gosh. Greg, my husband of gosh, it would have been our 31st anniversary a couple days ago. We were together for almost 28 years. What you just described, David, he said, you only have to be that for one person to make your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Just one person who looks at you like that, one person who sees you that way, one person you get to make happy. And you need it so much that whoever that is going to get something from you that other people don't. So if your daughter lets you make her happy and your wife doesn't, your wife will start hating the daughter. She'll see like you give her things you don't give me, but she doesn't see that the daughter gives you things that she refuses to anymore. She won't look at you like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're so much in this together. We're so much responding to each other, except for when we're not, which that what if men are responding to women, to find out there's so many things that you guys do that has nothing to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
You do it because you've got to do it. And you can regret the consequence, but you still got to do it. And that question, what if men are responding to women? So how is he responding to me? And how is this not about me? It's him. Because most women have it backwards. Like when a man, we call it non-committal, right? You're non-committal. Well, there are men who will say straight out, I'm not ready for marriage, or I'm not ever going to get married. And then we think when you love me more, you'll change.
Yeah.
No, love doesn't have anything to do with it. Love does not make a man ready. That's all about his life. And because can he take on the accountability of providing for another human being? And if this is the right person, we're going the same direction with the same values, and I can meet her needs and she can meet mine, which, by the way, this in real estate, David, people conduct more due diligence about buying a piece of real estate than they do
on their partner.
Getting into a relationship.
True. Yeah.
100%.
They do not have inspections. They don't walk around it. They don't compare the market.
Yep.
They don't find out, okay, what's been neglected here? What's the baggage here that's going to have an effect on me, and how am I going to be about it?
What's my return on investment going to be on this?
You have to, because that's the worth it calculation. And
I was just thinking that earlier.
Who do men commit to? Who do men marry? The people they decide, I am so much better off with her than without her. And yes, I've seen her worse. I've seen the worst in her. I can handle it. It's not pretty, but I can handle it. So women are always concealing their worst. So you don't know if you can handle it yet. I don't know her well enough. I haven't seen her worst. We're hiding our worst.
The same way you would feel if you were trying to find stuff out about a property and the owner or the seller wouldn't let you get in to see it. I don't want him to see what it looks. Well, then I'm not going to commit to buying it, but I don't want to lose the potential deal. So I'll hold it in escrow for as long as they let me hold it in escrow, but I'm not committing until you let me see what's in there, because I need to know what I'm getting. Yeah.
I know a man who was dating a woman. He just was so charmed by her, and she was saving sex for marriage, and he was fine with that. Okay. And as they got more and more serious, he's like, I'm completely fine with you saving sex for marriage, but I need to have a sleepover with you. I need to sleep with you to find out, can I sleep with you? No. And so he's like, I can't do this then. I'm out. He was willing to bet something as important as sex, completely unknown. Are we going to be able to work out this very complicated thing? But he had to know, can I sleep in the same room with her? And she wouldn't give him that. And there's so many things. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. The biggest thing, we have a program called Smart Singles. And the biggest thing that I see both men and women do is we commit too quickly. We decide, okay, you're the one, let's do this. And there's literally a voice in my head who has said that about Dan since we first met. I said, okay, there's a voice in my head that keeps saying, keep him. Can we keep him? Can we keep him? and he's like, yeah, sure, you can keep me. I said, no, it's way too soon for you to decide that. We got to find out if we're fit. And that means we can give each other what the other person needs, and we can get what we need, because we've got to both give and get. And it's going to take a long time to find out if this is going to work. And you want to explore it. But I still have the voice in my head. I mean, I finally, after almost a year, I moved to the city that he lives in. I literally live in his backyard. But the voice in my head says, Alison, you're going to die old and alone.
Mm-hmm.
You should move into the big house. No, I don't. I like it out here. I like being alone. I go to Dan. I have this ring right here. See this? Do you see this ring? It's not a wedding ring. This is a ring I bought myself to remind myself to make myself whole before I try to get something from him. So I don't go to him a half-empty swimming pool. I don't go to him cranky and tired. I live alone. When I finish work tonight, I'll probably, most of the day and maybe into Saturday, I will flatline. I will just spend with myself, restoring myself from what my job takes from me all week. And then I'll go over when I'm me again, when I can overflow to him. We don't think that way normally, right? The instincts say, couple, find somebody to hole up in the cave together to stay warm and protect yourself from the tiger. Be safe together.
Yeah. And then you get afraid. What if he kicks me out? What if something else happens? And how do I control this person to not make that happen? And oftentimes those means of control go against the grain of his instincts. So now, in order to give you what you need, he's not happy. What's that?
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Often?
Right. Yeah. So paint a picture for how this goes wrong in relationships when we try to get our needs met without respecting the nature of the instincts of the other partner. And I think it happens both ways.
You're right. It does happen both ways. Like, for example, we talk about this in our Understanding Women online course. Like, to a man, I'll stick with sex for a while. To a man, the benefits of sex are obvious. They're obvious. We don't need to talk about them. They're obvious. Well, women, it's one of the things women are clueless about is how sex benefits men. We think it's just a physical release. We don't think it has any more dimensions than that. We mostly don't even catch on that it's fun. And so, a man will say to his partner, hey, honey, let's do it. Having no idea that isn't enrolling to her, that doesn't remind her of how awesome it will be. So she's like cold. And also, like, I asked my husband, after leading a men and sex course, I asked him a question from the panel, which was, how do you like a woman to initiate sex? And I said, would you answer this question for me? This is like 10 years into being married, 2 children. And he said, I like all the ways that you initiate. I just wish you would initiate when it's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. It changed my whole world. I initiated with him the way I needed to be initiated with. So in the morning, I'd say, honey, can we have sex tonight?
Yep.
And if he said yes, then I would just naturally and sometimes unconsciously do what I needed to do during the day, be the self-cleaning oven. And I mean, you guys shock us with sex, which is why you have to spend time on foreplay. You say, hey, honey, we're going to do it thoroughly tonight. Be ready. You will not need to have any foreplay. She'll have been imagining all day long. She'll take a bath. She'll rest instead of do one more thing to clean the house. She'll be naturally doing things that build oxytocin, which is her capacity to have orgasms and not be depressed from sex. And she'll do this for herself if she was initiated with the way that she needs to be. But we do with each other what works for ourselves without having any idea what a mismatch it is.
You're describing a difference in the architecture of how the man and the woman is designed, that he is designed to where he can click it in place, or maybe a better way to put it is it's always there. And he just got rid of the dam that was holding back the water that wanted to rush in. So he was always there. For her, it needs time. The pressure needs time to build up, right? For a real estate analogy, the reason we typically have 30-day escrow periods from the point you put it in contract to close is there's a bunch of things that have to happen in the meantime. Inspections are done, appraisal is done, title is checked, the loan is secured.
Right.
All of these things are made sure. But there's nothing that stops people from doing that before they put the house in contract. I could go do all my inspections and order an appraisal and get my financing lined up on a house before I have it in under contract. That just isn't the way it works, right? What you're describing as foreplay is sort of that escrow period that gives her the ability to let all the chemicals be released, and she moves in this mysterious direction towards wanting it. But you don't have to wait until you start the foreplay before that happens. This could, like what you're saying, you could start that early in the morning if you wanted and just let the thing move along naturally, so that when you put it in contract, which is you kissed it for the first time, it's already all there. Is that basically like what you're describing?
Well, I mean, the look on my face is because there's some assumptions on your part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking for clarity.
Right. Okay, good. So that ready to go thing, right? What you would call sex drive. And pressure is a perfect word for it. I love that. Like, and if you think of there being, no pressure, and then time is passing and the pressure, the distraction of sex drive is getting higher and higher and higher and higher until it is completely annoying. Can't think of anything else. And so when you're describing, right, that pressure growing in a woman, years ago, I was trying to figure out how to explain this to Dennis Prager. Do you know who Dennis Prager is?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
I think I even saw your interview with him.
Yeah, he loves talking about sex. And he thought that the difference between men and women was that women didn't focus on sex, and you just had to get her to focus on sex.
Because that's how a man thinks, yeah.
Right. And that's when I said, but Dennis, women don't focus at all. And the look on his face was adorable. What? So I was trying to figure out how to describe it to him. And when I wasn't on the show, and I was like, okay, Dennis, this is one way to think about it. So sex drives are often mismatched. And so think of it as somebody who's hungry. So you're hungry and you're trying to get the other person to eat. Now, between men and women, it's different, because if a man is hungry and he's trying to get her to eat, okay, there are things women will eat when they're not hungry. But if it's a woman, because sex drives mismatch a lot in both directions, not only is she trying to get him to eat, she's trying to get him to cook.
Okay.
Because we don't have to cook. A woman doesn't have to have any sex drive to have sex. We're on the receiving end of this, biologically. So this is why men like initiating sex to be in the moment, because there's such a concern for the job. The job is on you to perform.
So he's hungry in that moment, so he feels more confident he can do what needs to be done.
He knows he can.
Right.
Instead of asking me in the scheduling sex.
Because what if I'm not hungry when we said we were going to have dinner?
Exactly. What if I can't cook? What if I'm too tired to cook?
Or I'm not in the mood. That's such a good point. And how much frustration happens in relationships because we don't understand this simple thing that you just described. That is why men shock women with sex, because he's like, I know I can do what I need to do right now, and I don't want to embarrass myself, so this is what I want to. And women don't know that's actually a vulnerability on his part, right? That if they understood it would be much easier to accept that.
Well, but it can even go beyond this. Okay, so I checked out if I could swear. I can do this on any swearing. I knew, being suddenly single at 58, that if I was going to do anything with men, it had to involve sex. I'd had a steady diet for 3 decades. And there are a lot of men my age and older, and some even younger, who signed off sex because they had an incident of not being able to cook. And they don't ever want that to happen again, right? Like because they take it so personally. And most women don't know, because we're imprinted by young men who the 0 to 60, that can happen in a half hour for an 18-year-old. Has sex, back to gotta have sex. Had sex, back to gotta have sex, right? It can take 2 weeks for a man in his 70s to build up that much testosterone. I mean, it's so varied, and women don't know this. We take it personally when you're not instant erection. I must not be attractive. We can't talk about it. And, we he's happy to help people. Dan and I was like, look, this is how I regard this. Erections are not on you. This is an erection partnership. We have one penis between us. We're grown-ups. We're both in our 60s. This is a partnership. And lo and behold, we get to have sex whenever we want, because he doesn't have to look to see, am I raring to go? I know how to get him raring to go. He knows how to help himself get raring to go. It's a partnership. So this is why I'm actually all for scheduling sex. Let's schedule sex, and then when we get there, we'll deal with whatever we deal with, and maybe we'll cook together.
Yeah.
We'll have it turn out. No matter what, we're going to have fun, and we're going to connect and be intimate and get to have skin on skin, which there's nothing like that in the world. And
that works better because it is bringing knowledge and insight into each partner about how the other one works. Okay. Like I remember Alison being maybe 14, 15 years old and hearing comics making jokes. They would say things like, guys are like a microwave and girls are like a crock pot. And some comic, usually a female comic, would make some joke about this, right? And then you would hear women like to talk a lot and men don't like to talk a lot. Or there'd be these things that would come up that everybody knew about. And I sort of assumed that by the time I was this age, we would, as humans, have figured this out and we wouldn't still be talking about it. Like we've known for hundreds of years, maybe even more, how men and women are different, yet we have the same freaking struggles. Like it just seems like these problems, we just stay locked in our stubborn, well, this is the way I am, and I want them to operate the way that I am. Is that part of what motivated you to learn this stuff and share it with other people? Because you just saw like we're fighting an uphill battle that doesn't have to be if we understand the other side better.
Okay, I got to finish the thing about the crock pot.
Okay.
So the beauty about women is if you understand the crock pot, hey, honey, how about tonight? I'll come home early. We'll put the kids to bed together. I'll put the kids to bed while you're in the bathtub, and then we'll catch up. We'll catch up on the last however many it's been since we had sex last. So could you start the crock pot now? Just imagining the things you want me to do to you. She can manage the crock pot all day long. By the time he gets home, honey, get the kids to bed. It doesn't have to be difficult. It all happens in our imagination. Mm-hmm. We literally trigger hormones with our imaginations. So it's so much easier when you understand, and even asking the question, what's my part? And for most couples, my part is expressing desire for you. And that goes both ways. The biggest turn on for a woman is her man's desire for her. The biggest turn on for a man is her desire for him. And mostly we're concealing it until we think we're going to get a yes. And that's how we keep things flatline. Instead of, I think of them as embers. It doesn't matter when we're going to get to have sex. Let's keep the embers going. So a passionate kiss goodbye instead of, a peck on the cheek. Be present to it. Stay like 10 seconds longer. It'll keep the embers going. but we don't know this about ourselves. And the not knowing, David, has so much to do with human instincts. We think somebody else knows and there's something wrong with me that I don't know and I'm embarrassed to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or that we should already know. Or if you loved me, you would know. Women think that men know what we need and are withholding it or unwilling to do it because you don't love me enough to do it. And women think feelings matter. Women think men are motivated by feelings. So if I can get you to feel the right way about me, then you'll treat me the right way. So we're always trying to manipulate your feelings for us because that's what we think will have you take out the trash. Instead of telling you the difference it would make in my life if you took out the trash. And how would you like to be appreciated for that? Like paying attention to, there's a worth it calculation for taking out the trash. It's how my husband became what he called the trash hero.
You said something so insightful. I heard about this because I didn't know that women don't know that we have a worth it equation because I don't know how women think, right? So I assume, like everyone does, that they think the same way that we do. But that is how everything that goes into my mind and the men that I know's mind is, what you're asking costs me X. What will the return be? Which is very easy for real estate investors to understand this. We don't like buying deals that lose us money. We like buying deals that make us money. And the more it makes, the more excited I will be to go after it. So you were describing how if you want your man to work out, go squeeze his biceps afterwards and be like, wow, look at that thing. If you want him to take out the trash, say, every time you take out the trash, I can't notice how good your butt looks. Like, I think you told a story about Greg, how he went hiking and you noticed it and you said something about his butt. And the next morning he was out there hiking again. And I'm like, yeah, obviously that is how you control men. And we like to be controlled that way. Manipulate me that way all day long. And no one explains it. What typically happens, I think, when women don't know it, is they nag. They say, you know, you never work out anymore. When are you going to go work out? It's kind of pathetic that you never go to the gym. Or is that all that you got? And then he just disengages. He doesn't want to work out, right? Could you just give a little bit of insight on that, on how to use the worth it equation to get what you want?
Yes, I have to make an adjustment. And it's my fault. I did this on our website and I haven't corrected it in the video. So I think like an engineer. Like my father's father, all engineers. So I figure out how things work, take them apart. How could we put them back together? What's really going on here? And so there are things that I've discovered, like the worth it calculation, and other things like the worth it, but like the appreciation equation, the deserving equation. So the calculation, it's got to come out in the positive. You do not want it to be equal. That what I put out is equal to get what I get back.
Correct,
no,
correct.
Right? It's a calculation and it's got to come out positive and it's got to come out high. Otherwise, you're sacrificing. But there are other things, and these are things that men and women don't know about each other, like the deserving equation. Part of being an honorable man is you don't ask for what you don't believe you deserve. What you can receive, what you can have, has to equal what you deserve. You have to earn it. You have to be worthy of it, including be worthy of a woman's love, worthy of a woman's devotion. If you don't feel worthy of her devotion because you admire her so much, you won't even notice that she's expressing it. You'll be like Teflon to it. You won't be able to let it in. So I tell women, when a man says, I'm not good enough for you, believe him. Not because it's true, but because if he believes that, he can't do any of the things he would do if he thought he was worthy of you. And so deserving, that's an equation. And and I have a whole thing on the deserving equation in our course for men, because your relationship to deserving what you need prevents you from getting what you need, because you haven't earned it yet. And so you literally have to think differently to be able to ask for something you need that you haven't earned yet. But who you could be if you had it, you could be that Ferrari, right? You could be that golden eagle, right? You could perform so much better if you were given that before before you earned it. But then that means you have to get good at receiving, which all human beings suck at. There's another equation, the appreciation equation. You can predict human behavior by their experience of appreciation. We're driven to equalize. If we get more appreciation than we think we deserve, we're going to make it up. We're going to pay it forward. We're going to do better. We're going to do more for you. This is so important in professional relationships. Oh my gosh. Employer, employee, client, provider. It's so important. But it gets even trickier because there's appreciation currencies. We have to find out what's appreciation to you. And women don't know how infrequently men are touched and how much it matters to you, the difference it makes to be touched. And I've asked so many men, how do you want to be appreciated? Like in a work situation or friendship or in your family or, in a romantic relationship, including how would you like to be appreciated? You're like, well, if you look into my eyes and sincerely say thank you, and you mean it. That's what sincere means. The feeling. You guys think you're insensitive. You're so sensitive. The feeling and the words match. Thank you. He goes, that's good. But if you touch my hand or touch my arm and look at me and say thank you, that amplifies it. That makes it even bigger. Women don't know this. We don't know this. We'll go like, oh, okay, thanks. Instead of, thank you so much for doing that. And can I tell you the difference it made in my life? Please. Please do. And so we have to find out currencies. Touch is a currency. Sex is an appreciation currency for many people, many men and women. Accountability. Accountability is a currency of appreciation. And one of the ways that we try to control men that fails miserably, all control fails miserably, by the way, but this especially is miserable, is that we want you to be helpful. We want you to implement. We want you to do tasks, but you're built for accountability. You're built for, I'm in charge of that. And what result do you want me to produce? Okay, I can do that if you give me this. And I'm going to think about my plan and execute my plan and let you know what I need. No, we want you to execute my plan, not knowing that my plan plays to my strengths and maybe will aggravate your weaknesses, which makes it not worth doing. So no, I'm not going to be accountable for that. And so we think men won't be accountable and men won't be held to account. But we try to hold you to account to behave like a woman. And you're like, no way, that's not me. So we think you can't be trusted because you can't be held to account. But you guys hold yourselves to account for so many things. And then because of how you hold yourselves to account, you have failures that we don't even know you're having. When I first got educated about this, it blew my mind. Like, what are you ashamed of? Well, I'm ashamed of my daughter got mugged and I didn't protect her. Were you there? No, I'm in California. She lives in New York. Well, how could you have protected her? I should have been there. Well, to a woman, that's illogical. So, and we don't want you to feel bad about it. Oh, you shouldn't feel bad about that. We're basically saying, you're not Superman. You're not that powerful. You shouldn't feel bad about that because you're weaker than you're holding yourself to. That's the worst thing you can do to a man. Instead of thank you for your commitment and how much you own that and how much you want to live up to that. And I'm so sorry that happened to your daughter and that you couldn't be who you're committed to being for her. Will you forgive yourself? And which is a whole other topic I could spend hours on. And I do. We have a course called Extreme Freedom. But the things that you're ashamed of affect what you think you deserve. So then you won't ask for what you need, but you still need things so badly that you'll take them, things that you think you deserve. You'll take them, but then you're ashamed of having take them. So now you deserve even less We call that the road to hell.
Oh,
So,
because it just spirals down. It never ends. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. And it's one of my biggest commitments is men getting to restore themselves, because only honorable men care whether or not they deserve something. Dishonorable men just take anything they want. Deserving is not even part of the equation. And most men are honorable. 95% of men are honorable and trying to do the right thing.
Understanding that, why won't he do this, or why isn't he trying to move us to this stage? Oftentimes it's because the man thinks, I don't deserve that yet. I am not worthy of that yet. I would be dishonorable to move us into a marriage, let's say, until I make this much money, until I have enough confidence that I can protect them. He loves her. He wants her. The desire is there. But his own internal mechanism is, I am not worthy of what I think she deserves yet. And if women don't understand that that's what he's thinking, she's probably assuming he doesn't like me enough. I'm not good enough. If I were a better woman, if I were prettier, if I could cook better, whatever it is that her insecurities are, that's what she's going to assume his motive is.
Yes. Yeah, I need to fix something in me so that you'll feel the way that if you felt that way, then we would go from dating to boyfriend, girlfriend, in relationship, get engaged, get married. You would, all those things that you say you're not ready for, you would be ready for if you felt different about me. Not knowing that your readiness, like you said, it's all on you. You know, one man who said, I have no business thinking about being married. I'm not even taking care of myself well enough. I have no business taking care of another person. And then women get upset about that. I don't need to be taken care of. I've got an income. I can do this. I'll show you. Well, but taking care of you is what he considers his duty as a husband.
Yeah.
And he's going to fulfill his standards, not yours.
Right. Yep. There's so much peace and pain that gets released when we understand what the motive was of the other side. And we cannot understand it if we can't first just be humble enough to say we're very different. And maybe it's okay that we're different. Maybe it's actually a design that causes a complement to each other. I want to get your opinion on something that I'm seeing everywhere right now.
Okay.
It's this it's a sort of this chicken or the egg argument where I hear women saying, well, I know that I'm not being the best version of myself in a relationship right now, but that's only because he's not being a real man, or there's not enough real men out there. And when I find the real man, then I will flip a switch and I will become sweet and caring and nurturing, or I'll be doing all the things that I know I should be doing. I'll be faithful. And I think the men are looking at it saying, what's the point of trying to become a real man and getting kicked in the teeth all day to get to that point if I'm not going to have a woman that trusts me and follows me and lets me take care of her and lets me provide for her because she's trying to do it. Have you noticed that? And do you think, if you have, that there's a prescription that we're missing?
Okay, we could do this for like a month, right?
Yeah, it's a big topic. So I'm assuming you have noticed something.
Splinter trails that go off. And that's how come 33 years later, I'm still doing this and still fascinated. So here's the problem. When a woman says she wants a real man, what she's really saying is she wants him to be strong. She wants him to be strong because if he's strong, then she'll feel safe, she thinks. Except for because women don't understand why men would do what they do, and we think you're broken or misbehaving and can't be trusted to do the right thing, you being strong and bad, you being strong and able to hurt me, you being strong, that's not good. So we say we want a man who's strong, but then we start leeching the strength out of him, or even just straight out emasculate. There's so many things that we do. I call it, and you probably heard this in the things you participated in, David, a testosterometer. that we literally can smell testosterone, and we are measuring the levels of testosterone in a particular man, in a group of men, in any environment that we're in. We're sniffing it out. And to women who haven't seen and take responsibility for how we can bring the worst out in you, and taking responsibility for, I'm going to have boundaries, that even if I did bring the worst out in you, I'm not going to let you be that. I know I caused this and you're furious. I'm going to go in the room, other room, because this is terrifying me. Instead of I keep emasculating you, I'm going to go in the other room while you settle down, and then I'll apologize, and then we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Like, we have to have both sides. Take responsibility for what we cause, and also take responsibility for what we're not built to handle. Most men don't know the effect of you raising your voice on a woman. You want to bring the worst out in a woman? You want her to have a cave woman attack and be the worst version of herself? Just raise your voice. That's all you got to do, is start yelling. And because we're built differently, right? I asked men, so what's it like for you when a man yells? What do you mean? What's it like for you? How does that affect you? It might be annoying. What are you talking about? But you have no idea that to us, you raise your voice, you're going to raise your hand. Even if it's never happened in our lifetime, we think that, and we're terrified. And if men can understand that women's worst behavior is driven by fear, and that you're so much bigger and stronger than us, and so we want you to be strong, as long as we know you're going to use your strength for me. But since we don't even know the words to use to ask you to use your strength for me, instead of, honey, we need to talk about this issue. Oh God, an issue. By definition, not solvable. Honey, could you help me with a problem? Of course. What is it?
We get to solve something. That's fun for us.
I mean, that's how I ended up doing this for so long, because what I've been working on my whole life is ending hunger and poverty and death by starvation. But then when I started studying men for my own benefit, I realized we're never going to solve any of the big problems as long as we're cutting off the balls of the compulsive problem solvers. And that most men don't have the problem. What can I do? Okay, what can I do? World hunger is a problem. Clean water is a problem. What can I do about that? No, most men are, how do I get out of this argument with my testicles? How do
Yeah, that's a good point. Sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If I don't have my testicles, I can't worry about the higher things.
Exactly. And we want you to be strong. We want you to protect us, but we don't know how to ask you to protect us. And this is why I encourage men on the other side. What causes chemistry in women? The perception of strength. Do not become what you think women are wanting you to become. That will not cause chemistry. You'll be a great friend, but you'll be thought, too weak. You won't even register. One of the best ways a man can demonstrate his strength is to stand up to a woman. Honey, I love you, and what you're saying is not true. And until you're willing to look at my point of view, I won't even discuss this with you. What? And then, truly, I want to be your guy, but you got to understand what it's like for me to be your guy. Whether we admit it or not, we know we're our own worst enemy. I call it the tiger within. That's what's tearing us down all the time. It's the tiger within. That's the voice that's telling us, if I were more of this or less of this, you would love me. You would be strong for me. I would attract a real man. When you're like, honey, I know you're afraid right now, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for how I contributed to that. What do you need to get back to yourself? Well, what you said just helped a lot. And just that you can stand there and be with a woman, and how she expresses fear is in such horrifying ways, such nasty things coming out of her mouth. If you can know this is just fear, and I can handle this, you can literally become impervious to emasculation. This is why the Queen's Code is become part of the men's movement, because when you find out what causes women to emasculate you, and when you find out how good your motivations are, you can become impervious. Like, no, that's who I am. I am motivated to do that. And that's part of who I am. Don't criticize that. And honey, I can see you're afraid right now. What are you afraid of? And you can be with us, because we're like, okay, in raising of dogs, there's these monks in New Jersey who raise dogs. And one of the distinctions they make is between a submissive dog, an aggressive dog, and a fear biter. So there are dogs that they're coming after you because they're going to dominate you no matter what. And then there are fear biters. And women are fear biters. There are some who are they're aggressive, period, because they're going to climb to the top of the hill no matter what. But mostly we're fear biters, even the worst of us. And I don't know, there's a show on Netflix now called Warriors, which I love. I hate I'm on the last episode. I saved it. It's the last one of the third
You don't want it to
season.
end.
I don't want it to end. But there's a character in there, this woman, she's a fear biter. Everything she does is driven by trying to make herself feel safe. And she's ruthless and brutal. The things she does are terrible. But she's a fear biter. And if you can see that, you can see this is a fear biter. She just needs to be made to feel safe. And you acquiescing to her, you being manipulatable by her, you like trying to avoid the confrontation, which is so natural for men to avoid confrontation, because in your mind, what's at stake is violence. This isn't worth dying over, right? Like,
or I would add the risk that if I challenge her and we fight and I lose, the relationship ends. Like, she's thinking I'm stronger than him. He can't keep me safe, and I'm not safe as I am. Oftentimes, I think when the men are arguing with women over anything, he's afraid if she can prove she doesn't need me, I will lose her. She will find a better, stronger man or whatever. And so the men just avoid the conflict because they're afraid of, like, if we get into it and I don't know how to solve this problem, she'll be gone. I think I see this happen quite often, especially where you get, does that make sense what I'm saying there?
It is, but I want to poke at something you said that to you is like normal, like something unexamined. One of the biggest problems we have these days is women are sure they don't need men. And so it's not she'll find out she doesn't need me or she'll decide she doesn't need me. She's already caught in this mental construction that's all messed up. I mean, when I work with single women, they're like, well, so why would I want to be with a man? I said, okay, here's your first assignment. What do I need a man for? Truly, what do I need a man for? Answer the question. Because, basically since 1970, we've been proven we don't need you. And we don't even want to acknowledge what we need you for. And which understanding women, that course online is so much about what women need men for. Nothing can make a woman feel safe like one man she knows has her back. And that's the beginning of everything good in us. And so the thing is for you to keep figuring out, how can I have her know I have her back, even when she's being horrible? And magic words like, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, which are completely illogical to a man. But to a woman, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. We go from out of our minds to reconnected with ourselves.
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about a good ROI? No one teaches men what you just said. I mean, I think Kyle could probably agree. We could be in a 4-hour argument over the facts without realizing that what she was waiting for was for us to say, what I did hurt you, and I feel bad that happened. And we don't even know that that's a thing to be discussed because we've got a legal case that we're presenting to the judge who's going to make a completely objective decision based on these facts. And like, that's one of the things you said that I was so grateful to hear it. Now, I will also admit, candidly, I forget this. I need constant reminders that that's what I'm supposed to do. But the ROI is incredible.
Well, and that's where the partnership comes back. It's so foreign for you that a woman has to ask for it, and then she's got to give you credit for it, and then sooner better than later is, so what you said hurt my feelings. Can you just say, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, even though that's not the whole truth? Could you just say it anyway so I can get my brains back? Honey, I'm so sorry I hurt your feelings. Okay, thank you. And I'm so sorry that I interpreted what you did the way I did. Because you're better than that. And you never intended to hurt me, ever. And that's the thing women don't know, that unless we have attacked you like badly, you don't mean to hurt us. You never want to hurt us. We're the unicorns in the forest. Don't shoot the unicorn in the forest.
Right.
The magical beings that light up life. But
no, our currency thrives on making you happy, not hurting you. We don't get any benefit from that.
None.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of the small percentages of men that, and I mean, we have it on our website, Unhealthy Men, The Secrets of Early Detection. An unhealthy man is a man who attacks you when you're happy. Almost all men, they're going to protect happiness. They're going to do whatever they can to cause happiness. Unhealthy men, they attack you when you're happy. Those are the ones that are the opposite of what you just said. They get something from knowing they can hurt somebody like that. But it's such a small percentage. And the only time I've seen it in healthy men is, the exception is if she's happy and she's rubbing it in his face that he is not the cause of her happiness. Then a healthy man will attack.
God, this is so insightful. I know we got to let you get out of here, Alison.
I do. I have to go do something.
We could talk for months, and this is something the world needs to hear so bad, because there is a war, it feels like, between the two sides, just digging in their heels, and no one's happy if they win that war. We're only happy when we can figure out how to come together. So thank you. For people that want to follow you, they want to learn more about you, they want to sign up for some of your courses, where can they go?
AlisonArmstrong.com.
AlisonArmstrong.com. And is there anything you recommend that people sign up for?
Oh, golly. Listen to the Queen's Code audiobook. I will read to you. It's a fabulous story. It's sexy and sentimental and transforms lives. I'm going to write the sequel later this year. And Lux is 8 hours that will knock your socks off. You get your hands around the three things they're the only three things we can control in relationships. So I recommend that. That's in one of our online courses. I interact with the people participating in our online courses. I spend 8.5 hours a month answering their questions. I'm highly available. Understanding women, whether you're a man or a woman, it's also a place that you can start. There's no prerequisite. And there are a lot of men who look at the menu of the sessions and go, okay, I just want to go straight to session 14, the one on female sexuality. Why can't I do that? Because with women, everything either adds up to sex or it doesn't. So you have to start with the first session. Oh, okay. And then if you hurt a woman's feelings and don't fix it, sex will eventually be off the table, if not immediately. I mean, it's a whole circle of a completely different organism that's so different than you guys.
Which it behooves us to understand. And I think it behooves women to understand themselves, right? Because how many women are walking around having no idea how they work because it hasn't been put out there. So I want to...
There's so many women who berate themselves for procrastinating because they don't know there's a really good reason for that. Or a man will accuse them of being scattered and they accept the criticism instead of, look, my brain works differently than you.
Yeah.
You want this soft skin and all this curves, you're going to get what looks like scattered. It just means that I am aware of so many more things in the environment than you are. And that's why we're a good team, because you can be focused and get the result produced while I'm watching not only our backs, but our fronts, but our sides and our upsides and our downsides. I'm scanning and seeing everything. And that's why I know where your keys are.
It's a great team. That's right. That's called diffuse awareness and single focus, which we didn't get into today. But I'd love to have you back, Allison, to talk about this another time. I know we need to let you get out of here, but thank you so much for being here, everybody. If you have heard something today that you did not know existed, go check out AlisonArmstrong.com. Her work has changed my life. My interactions with women brought so much peace and so much clarity to things that used to hurt all the time. And I would love for more of you to have a similar response. Alison, thanks for being here today, and we will see you later.
You're welcome. Thanks for getting me out of here. Let's do it again.
All right.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Kyle.
See ya.